And do you see anything wrong with today being a National Day of Mourning, being a Saturday?
National Day of Mourning to me is no event. If I even see people say, let us thank, there's nothing we're thanking. There's no thanks we are giving here. Lives that are lost, and then with the pronouncement of National Day of Mourning, with no major step taken to stop the killing, is no event. Let me not deceive Yaoundé. And we are not here to pamper the regime. No. Because if we start saying the National Day of Mourning, we should thank the head of state, it is nothing to be thankful.
So what I'm saying now is that when you talk about the killings now, you should be directing it to the both parties because both parties are guilty of killing. So
that is what I'm saying, that when you talk about National Day of Mourning, I am concerned to see the war comes to an end finished. All this declaration, how do you sit and the head of state declares the National Day of Mourning and nothing is changing? You know how many more people will be killed or have been killed? Since that very day, I spoke about Babanki, and many more are being killed as we speak. We are at a stage whereby the killings are undocumented any longer. At first, people said we're at 800, we're at 900, we're at 1-2. Even journalists were given an account. Where we are now, you don't even know the exact number of people who have died. You will discover some in the bushes, bones when you want to go to your cocoa farm and all the like. Mr. List, National Day of Mourning is no event. If you even manage to put it on a school day, as you know, there were school children, we could manage to understand. It was supposed to be nothing like half flat. Even a public holiday, we could understand. So what I think is that Mr. Head of State, who has declared National Day of Mourning, we will be glad if you wipe out the National Day of Mourning and say today, we are now going for a sincere, genuine dialogue. When you follow the principles of conflict resolution, just like what Fabrice said, if the real thing is put in place, those separatists will come.
Okay.
But once you don't put it, they know that you are still joking. And lives are being lost. National Day of Mourning, that's why I'm putting on my wife. I don't condole. I had mourned my own and it's over. Anything people say National Day of Mourning, half flag, halfway, is no event as of now until Yaoundé does the right thing. But Yaoundé, if you don't do the right thing, a time is coming. Ministers, colonels, on both sides, whatever they are, will stand before the dock to account for the lives of innocent people that has gone. The clock is ticking.
All right.
If not now, in the nearby days or months coming ahead. It's a sure fact. We cannot deny that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Fay Elvis. Definitely, this is where we're coming to the end of today's edition of the Pan-African Debate. I want to thank you so very much for being there, Mr. Fabrice Lena, Secretary General of the Popular Action Party. Thanks for being there. Mr. Ateme Bako, you're equally present. Pan-Africanist, we very much appreciate your presence on the program. Professor Mark Anthony, Pan-Africanist and the leader of United Africa for Economic Empowerment. Thanks for being there, Mr. Fay Elvis, equally political analyst. We want to very much appreciate your time for being there on the program. Thanking you for watching too. Those of you who participated by leaving your comment on our Facebook page, we very much appreciate. Stay tuned to our Afrique Media. More programs are coming right ahead. Rebroadcast is on Monday, 3 p.m. Until then, it's a bye-bye from here. I was going to ask you, Mr. Fay, as a political analyst now. One of the callers rightly said that this crisis, which has been prolonging, has become a business on both sides. We realize that there are several persons in the government who are eating fat from the government, maybe justifying their outing allowance and all that. They are equally Amazonian fighters, so now carrying guns, they are eating fat from maybe kidnappings and extortions. Now, these are some of the reasons why you see the crisis might not end. These are some of the reasons, just like the caller said, it's become a business on both sides. Now, how do we resolve all this and bring the crisis to an end? The people who are suffering from all this now want an end to the crisis. How can we deal with that?
Yes, it is true that it's normal in any conflict, business is on both sides. You see, when you see me hitting on the government, it's not like the separatists don't have their excesses. In any conflict, the parties involved they always go to extremes. If you look at the conflict in the northern part of the RDC, Laurent Kunda was there, they were raping women. You got the point, in the Kivu area, they were raping women and all the like. So it's very obvious. But you see, people are also decided to call a spade because most of the people around have decided to pamper the government. When the government is the one who has a knife and a yam to call the shots. Now, you see the issue of eating on both sides, the caller said it quite correct. It's just like the government is selling the goat and holding the rope. The issues of digitalization, government sells the goat, holds the rope. They are all cosmetic. If you look at it, I said the last time, I'm currently carrying out an investigation on the issues of PTA. Now, how do you expect that school hasn't been running for long? And the government wants people to send their children back to school. And while they send their children back to school, you pass through the various administrations to start collecting PTA. Extortion of the first order. I said this is thievery. Broad daylight. The only exception I saw was in Dian. Because I investigated on the ground on Dian, I realized that it looks like the SGO in Dian had banished the issue of PTA in order to encourage parents to send their children back to school. I've seen documents from the various schools. I testify that they don't collect PTA in Dian since 2018 till today. The question now is, why is it that in Fako, in Manu, in Le BLM, in Mezam, in Donga Mantum, PTA is being collected? You can see how I say that sometimes the administrators take the bull by the horn. How do you explain that a regional delegate sits and they are collecting and they tell you, before you pay fee, pay your PTA first. 20,000 francs, 19,500 francs, like the case I investigated in Fako division. I went to Meme division, they're also collecting PTA there. And the divisional delegate was trying to give me some excuses why they collect PTA, and yet you want them to go to school. When they are coming from impoverished areas, some of them have been sent out of their homes, houses burnt. You can see the thing. So, what I'm saying here is that, Luis, it is business. Do you know that I spoke with a handful of uniform officers? There are many who pray that they should be sent to Boya, Kumba, Limbe, Chico, but it's bad news when they hear they're going to Lebialem. Why is it so? Yesterday, many of youths were arrested at the outskirts of Munya by the gendarmerie brigade, and they are currently asking them to pay money. It's not the first time. You know that story. When they go to Munya, it's not a money-making business. It means that these kind of uniform officers in Boya, Limbe, Mutengene, Chico, Bamenda will know how to go to an end.
So how do you think this crisis will be resolved with all this?
It can only be resolved if people decide, if the Yaoundé regime decides that we want negotiation now.
Negotiation, that's the problem now.
Good.
Let me come back to the point
And
of
now, if Yaoundé does not want negotiation,
the leaders in the separatist camp. Now, there's a problem with this leadership. Some think Seseko Ayog is illegitimate.
Mr. Luis, I have answered this thing several times here. The issue of division in the separatist camp is not an excuse for a kangaroo government not to engage into genuine dialogue.
Now, there was a recent engagement of trying to negotiate with Seseko Ayog Tabe, but the other camp, said Seseko Ayog Tabe is illegitimate.
It's the same government who even
Mr. Luis,
that they were.
let me tell you something you don't understand. Yaoundé regime has the policy of divide and rule. It's in all French-speaking African countries. They come in between and they divide people and they start saying that no, we cannot. They know the leaders. Luis, in Southern Sudan, when the first peace talk took place in RDC, before coming back to Juba, the armed conflicts, the groups had divided to more than 28. And the 28 factions were called to order. If Yaoundé wants this conflict to be brought to an end, even if because as they delay, the factions increase. That's the tendency of conflict resolution. As you delay, they metamorphosize. Those that Ayuk Tabe could control, he no longer controls now.
Okay.
And so what Yaoundé could do is that if you have 30 factions, don't give me an excuse that you don't know that because of faction you cannot talk to them. Call the 30 factions on the ground and each have a say.
Okay.
That is the solution.
All right.
If not, Yaoundé is playing a ping-pong game. And as I said, we must copy from Njan Division. Njan Division is not collecting PTA. Njan Division is moving seemingly towards normalcy. If people are serious, I think the administrative authorities will do that and you see things return to normalcy. We are no longer in a ping-pong game. But Luis, why I ran up? As the conflict is coming to an end, whether you were governor, whether you were GO, whether you were commissioner, there's what is called a backup tribunal that's set up after every conflict. People who think they are untouchable will be brought to book. Don't be watching.
All right, Mr. Fay Elvis, thank you very much. Now, we still expect your calls. Let's have this certainly last call on 9. Hello, welcome to the program. Let's hear you. You're live on the program. Can we hear you? Please go ahead with your contribution.
Giving me the opportunity to express myself. How can we stop this crisis? You see, firstly, the government has to stop threatening people. I saw a video where the governor was asking the people in Kumbadak, you know the people who killed. He asked them, and then he wants them to say what they don't know. Let's say the truth. The government now is trying to say that it's the Amber Boys who kill people. I will say something.
Operation, or the one is just a definite end to the crisis now? How do you think, as a political analyst, how can this be achieved?
Well, as my fellow co-panelists have spoken, as I said, I would have loved it to be end to the war in the southern Cameroons as supposed to be, because the Anglophones and the Francophone issues gives us another connotation which does not tie with the real context on the ground. Now you see, out of a sudden, people have started talking about an Anglophone crisis after 4 years. I look at the hashtag and I smile and I laugh. You know, when hypocrisy creeps in, people begin to make themselves popular with these hashtags. I begin to ask the question, where were they when some of us were singing this song from year one of the crisis to today? Something is not right somewhere.
Now, the time for blame game has passed, and definitely everybody wants
the time for blame game has passed, but that hashtag does not solve the problem. You
So
know,
what we want now is...
we want solution, quite all right. I have been on the ground and I said, when you want solution, there are some key facts, historical facts that must be put in place first. If you want to build a house based on falsehood foundation, you are wasting your time. You describe yourself building on the sand. And that's why things must be made straight at all cost. If you look, for example, I told people in Kumba, even media men, when the killing took place in Kumba, media men took the relay by saying separatist fighters have done that. I said, no, you don't do that. I told them that because we're in a complex situation whereby propaganda takes the center stage. And in this situation, A can disguise as B to do this. B can disguise as A to do that. And then somebody neutral, like a hoodlum or just a normal thief, can disguise also in the middle, who is neither on the side of the separatists nor on the side of the government. We have seen in Boya and in Kumba, just after that incident, 2 persons were caught. One was linked to Kumba to death, who was a thief. Another one was caught around Malingo Street, who came presented to be a B officer and insisting that he wants to harass people in the house and collect money. And he was arrested and also beaten before being handed over, and the only reason that he was not even the B. So, what am I saying? In the complex situation, because the common characteristic of conflict is that when conflicts come into place, propaganda takes center stage at a point in time. That's why I told people that I have been investigating the issue, because sometimes I ask myself, where did we get to and how did we get to where we are today? I studied the incident in Kumba. First, I drew some sort of analysis from the past occurrences. When you look at the killing in Kumba, it tells you it was carried out by serial killers. I talk about serial killers. When you look at the unfolding events, you begin to put a question mark as to who might be around, but not to conclude. That's why I said that NGOs that are independent for investigation are supposed to take the center stage. Not even the government, who is a key actor in the conflict, nor even the Ambazonians to carry out the investigation. Now, if you put all of this together, if you look at Ngarbu, cold blood, you look at Pinyin, the people were brought in a hotel and slaughtered overnight. One escaped to a health center in Akum. They followed there, killed plus, including the 2 brothers who were taking care of that person. If you go to Batibo massacre, where 7 were killed in their house, in cold blood, you go to the issue of, when you come to Bali, we have also had a massacre there. Now, twice, when you see this, the nature in which the killings are taking place in borderline, where it is serial in killings, it tells you that the Kumba incident is still early to conclude who killed those children. Now, let me keep that one aside, because that's what I've been telling journalists, you don't conclude. The federal government hurries up to start saying A or B before saying that investigation is ongoing. You know, the government wants to contradict itself. Now I will call it a kangaroo system, because you first of all conclude before you say, okay, investigation is going on. How do you carry out an investigation when you have concluded that it's A or B? Now, I don't want to talk about the details I found around the area when I visited. That one is left for the investigation team to do their job. Now, when we look at the crisis, Mr. Luis, you see, we have been able to tell people that in as much as we are Pan-Africanist, but we need to call a spade, whether we like it or not. From the killings, the hashtag is there. Who are those spearheading the hashtag? Do they have credibility? What have they done? When the killings took place in Kuma, I arrived Kuma on Friday. Saturday, I was around the area, coincidentally, I left 30 minutes after. When I was at the market, they told me, come back, there's trouble. So, what happens? With the hashtag, who are those putting up the hashtag in the first place?
Now, these are youths who are championing this call for an end to the crisis because definitely they themselves are tired of the
I
killing.
am still coming, my brother. When you say youth, who are the youths? Let me tell you this story because some of us don't want to call the spade a spade. Hashtag started in Kumba. When the killing took place, the incumbent city mayor and a host of CPDM mayors and CPDM members were alongside with local visitors took to the streets. It was announced in church on Sunday where I was worshiping in Kumba. 1 o'clock, come out, we'll start a town green, we'll go around to say no to the war, no to what is end Anglophone crisis, and no to the violence. Who were those masterminding? CPDM officials. What is the question? Since war started 4 years ago, is it today they knew that end to the Anglophone crisis? 2, in Boya, when the Minister of Women's Affairs and Empowerment took her own station in Yaoundé, the Women's Affairs delegation in Boya took another relay and they went to the governor's office. Who were those at the forefront? People who matter in the system and who have been quiet and supporting the regime.
So what are you proposing or suggesting?
What I am proposing is that we will not listen to any hashtag any longer. You want the end to the war, you should march to A2D. A2D is the problem of this problem. So if you cannot go to A2D, if you like, carry on million marches in Grebenduka. May your commercial carry them in Furawa. As you went to the governor's office and the governor told you in the southwest, you people are the ones hiding in the cemetery, you know them. So what am I saying? Any move we put now, Mr. Luis, the regime needs to go on vacation. Yaoundé, A2D needs to go on leave. My panelist just said that, we have to put the issues to be handled around us. With my political analysis on the ground, the issue is above A2D to handle. I am not advocating for international organizations to come, but I know Africans, ex-presidents, presidents like John Akufo in Ghana, South Africa, and others could mediate for it to come. If anybody deceives you that Yaoundé can solve this problem, it's a waste of time because I see them. If you look at their arrogance, how do you get to Kumba? For you came to carry out to see things for yourself, and you cannot go to the scene of action. Ministers team from Yaoundé did not go to the scene of action. It did not go. I was there in Cape Town, Kumba, and I begin to ask myself, Luis, when the Basilica Notre Dame was on fire in France, before 6 hours, head of state was sending condolences to Macron for the Basilica being on fire. In Kumba, just like in Ngarbu, just like in Pinyen, where is the president of Cameroon? Paul Biya. I have not seen him. And I said earlier that those ministers who are camouflaging, in a normal circumstance, if you hear this kind of disaster in France, Macron will fly within 40 minutes to be there. If it's in Ghana, Akufo will fly there. In South Africa, presidents will move there. My question now
we're talking
is,
of a zone that is, it's not safe.
no, Mr. Luis, when you create an unsafe environment, you must go there.
Of course.
Because you created a scenario.
But
If the government acted in time, when the teachers and lawyers were demanding what they were demanding, whichever way we are today, do you know that if the Minister of the Television can be there, head of state can be there?
Of course.
Because his security will even be 10 times more than that of the Minister of the Administration. How do you explain to me, Africans, listen, this government in Yaoundé is not serious. All the those government in this African continent will go
we've
and leave.
actually gone past the time of blame games.
No,
Now,
we have gone back. We must
forward.
point that they should take their responsibility into their hands.
At this point in time now, what do you think should
What
be
I
done?
think should be done is that they should go and leave. I say leave of no return. Because you cannot tell me that children are killed and they belong to education family. The ministers cannot go to Air Force Base 101 in Yaoundé, Van, to pick up the next available flight from a helicopter, which will be 40 minutes, and they are in Kumba. You cannot tell me they cannot call the security forces to mobilize people to welcome them there and give them security. And they come 4 or 5 days after. It means that they are not serious. And when they arrive on the scene, you are not going to the place. You are not going to the point of action. You come and rigmarole around Kumba City Council, take your first vehicle and move back out of the town. It is a sham. I don't want to go into a statement. Luis, what do we do to end Anglophone? What they call the Anglophone guys, as they call it. The only thing they need to do is that one, if they want to stay there in Yaoundé, because for me is that they should go on leave. Permanent leave, not even to return. But if for benefit of doubt, they want to pretend that they can try. This killing of these children plus what we call Bawanki, 24 hours after, houses burned and people killed. Now, what they need to do to stop the democracy is first, they should begin to be truthful. I was in Kumba when a hoodlum in Fiango was killed called Wonke, and the official said it is a commander in the Amber forces who was one of those who, you can get it. I went to the ground and the statement was not correct, was not true. So, Yaoundé and the people that govern this country must begin to speak the truth. Point number one, you want to stop the Anglophone crisis. Point number two, there must be an unconditional ceasefire. Yaoundé, hear me very well. Don't ring my roll. When we say ceasefire, it means that you must agree with the key partners who are in the war. Who are the key partners? The secessionists or the Amber fighters and the government are the main actors. Anybody who is coming around is only coming as a second fiddle or a third party into the conflict. Now, when you call a ceasefire, because, Luis, in conflict resolution, when you realize that a country is taking 1 year, a country that promises that we will neutralize them, we shall neutralize them. 4 years is on running. You are neutralizing and they are not getting finished. It means that you should know that you can no longer, you can move on with the next 10 years. As Chumo Nagi said, because they tried in Vietnam, it did not go in guerrilla warfare. What do they need to do? You must come from your Trojan horses up there, from Yaoundé. Get to the leaders concerned. Yaoundé knows them. Because in the pre-dialogue, Mr. Luis, Yaoundé sent people to Europe on high budget. Some took 7 million. Others took 5 million to go across Europe to talk with the leaders. It means Yaoundé knows. What should Yaoundé do? Point number two. Go to these leaders, talk with them, and tell them, please, can we agree on a ceasefire? They will agree on a ceasefire. Point number three. Take what we call unconditional release of those who are detained. Point number four. I am talking on ethics of conflict resolution. And in conflict resolutions, you don't take shortcut. It is a scientific approach that Cameroon is the only country in the world that is taking shortcut. That's why we say that cosmetic solutions will still keep people dying. After this state protest every day, what next? As your topic states, what's the way out? We will still have killings going on as they are still going as I speak now. Right. So, if you go to the fourth point, what do you need to do after engaging in a ceasefire? I told Yaoundé about buffer zone. Yaoundé did not understand. In Syria and Iraq, war is going on, but buffer zones have been carved out, where children are brought to an area, whether government or non-government, and they begin to attend school, protected by the government, accepted by the separatists, while other things can be going on. When you want to insist on school to go, you say security measures have been put in place. When you are lying, because they have not been put in place, evidence, children shot, and the next thing is you start lying that it's because they were illegal, it's because they did not give you an itinerary. Instead, show your witnesses that it means you did not follow up what's happening in your territory to know that school was going on, and then you come to say they were illegal. So, if you put all of this together, Mr. Luis, you will discover that the next last thing, if Yaoundé talks with the separatists, the next thing is you must have a favorable avenue. It's under conflict resolution. You cannot be a referee and a player, Mbano. You cannot see the Yaoundé. You say national dialogue, and you want separatists to come there when you know that their safety is not guaranteed. Yaoundé, we are no longer fools. Therefore, call on people like Goodluck Jonathan, ex-presidents and incumbent presidents in the African continent who have portfolio. I'm not talking about dictators. If you bring a dictator, he will come and act the same way like dictator. If you meet these persons who have stood the test of time, Mr. Luis, they will tell you that separatists, what do we do? There is no level-headed separatist leader who will say, let's go to Yaoundé.
Okay.
Which means a neutral avenue will be accepted by both of them, and then Yaoundé can sit there. Before you know it, Luis, you will start seeing the problem being resolved. All these commissions of disarmament, reconstructions are zero. No. I'm telling them.
Okay, Mr. Fay Elvis, I'm going to come back to talk about the leadership and the ceasefire because we understand the leadership problem existing in the camp of the separatists. Now, before that, let me talk with you, Mr. Fabrice Lena. As a politicians with the Popular Action Party, Fay Elvis cited the fact that the regime is to be blamed, and you equally mentioned that. But do you see this crisis in the two English-speaking regions as a political crisis? Does it still need a political solution to be brought to an end?
Forward and our position as a Pan-Africanist and and leaders of organizations. Thank you very much again, Mr.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Temebako, for joining us equally. Mr. Fay Elvis, political analyst, thanks for being here today, for finding ways to end the Anglophone crisis. As a political analyst, I want to thank you very much for accepting to be with us today on the program.
Thanks very much for accepting me. Though we have been talking for 4 years running, threats keep coming, things get going out of hand, and people sit in Yaoundé and think that we are acting drama. Greetings to Kalingo, my good friend from Kumba, who's watching us right away, and at the same time, my mother, Mamindum, alias Mami Kamasech, who are all watching us out there in Cape Town and Kumba, where I made a trip to Cape Town 2 times within 5 days. On the day of the event, I left on Sunday and then came back again. Of course, stayed there for 48 hours and left again. The situation is precarious, and we'll be talking and going on with first-hand information on the ground and not based on a hearsay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fay Elvis, and thank you very much those of you who are here and those of you watching us this day on the program. And the Anglophone crisis is our greatest concern, but what is the way out? And that's what we're expecting to hear from you. You can send us your contributions when the lines are open for you. Call us and share with us what you think as a way out of the Anglophone crisis. You can leave your comments equally on our Facebook page. Those of you following us live on Facebook, we shall have them right here on the program. Now, let's begin with Mr. Fabrice Lena. You're dressed in black, just like you said. Today, National Day of Mourning. You're not just mourning because the President decreed so, but certainly you're mourning, and this is coming after the killing of 7 children in Kumba. But this is not the only killings we've witnessed so far throughout this Anglophone crisis. Why is this particular?
Yeah, I will first of all start by saying the topic "End Anglophone Crisis" to me is not really appropriate, because I should have preferred "End War in the Southern Cameroons." You know, crisis is a situation of difficulty or instability in economic, social, or political situation of a country where decisive decisions must be taken to go out of such situations. Meanwhile, war is a situation of armed conflict between 2 groups of people, countries, or groups where blood shed is what we experience on a daily basis. And I think the second explanation is what we are experiencing in the southern Cameroons. It's good that people should get it very clear, loud and clear, that we are talking about southern Cameroons. Because when I read through the social media and I see the hashtag "End Anglophone Crisis," to me, I still think that many people need to be educated, need to be taught, need to be sensitized on the elements of our history of this country, where we are today, what brought us at this stage where man has become enemy to man to the extent of killing very little children that have little or no knowledge about the happenings of society or even their existence. So you begin to understand that there is a dichotomy, a discrepancy between the conception of this war, this crisis, for some of us who are from the southern Cameroons and most of the people who found themselves in Yaoundé and Douala in the Cameroon. And I want to tell my brothers and sisters in Yaoundé and Douala and in other parts of Cameroon and the world that it is supposed to be end war in southern Cameroons. Mr. Mbia declared war on southern Cameroonians because his commission or emissary that he sent in Bamenda in 2016 were unable to accept simple proposals, proposals of rights, basic rights that the population of these 2 regions in southern Cameroon were reclaiming. And what was the result? The result was military option. And where has military option led us to? 4 years children are killed, 4 years, mothers are maimed, 4 years, young girls are raped, 4 years of sorrow, and people are suffering and smiling. And they will come to say end Anglophone crisis. It's end war in southern Cameroons. When I look at some individuals and groups of people walking around and saying they want to make protests without a definite objective, without a particular message, without targeting the group of people, for me it's like waste of energy. And we are turning around the same cycle of seeking relevance in the socio-political sphere of the country. Because if we want to treat this matter with the urgency with which it calls all of us, if we want to treat this matter with the importance that it appears to be or it is, we have to, all of us, take to the streets and tell Mr. Mbia that God did not give monopoly of leadership to you. 87 years, scientifically, you are incapacitated to manage even a family, not to talk of a country. 38 years of a particular party in a country is too much. It is very simple for us to analyze. When people keep saying we should denounce every group, I still say that the problem is the regime in place. It is the regime in place. It is true that in situations of armed conflict, there are individuals with malicious intentions. There are individuals who by their nature are not having that conscience of saving life. And these people are victims of the politicians that use them in order to carry out their political agendas, which include sucking of blood. That is what is happening. It is a very sad situation that the government is behaving in a particular pattern and the citizens are also behaving in a particular pattern. Because when we want to talk, they will say, you politicians, you politicians, you politicians. Politicians give the way forward for the citizens to rise up. There has never been any politician in any country that has carried out acts as an individual. It is with the support of the population, which is the mass that remove small of their right to give to a certain people in order to manage them. But if the population get up today, we want to march to denounce killings in Kumba. You go in front of the governor's office, stop killings. We want peace. After 1 or 2 weeks, all these things will stop, and at the end, you will still hear another massacre in the next 4 weeks, in the next 1 month, in the next days. We don't know.
All right.
The right proposals, actions should go to the right headquarters. That is Yaoundé.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Fabrice Lena. You spoke as a politician, member of a political party now. Mr. McAntony, from a Pan-Africanist standpoint, the recent killings in Kumba, which comes to add to the already thousands of persons who've died as a result of the 4-year-old Anglophone crisis, how did you welcome this as a Pan-Africanist?
I have a problem with the issue of a lot of deaths happening. You see, considering the fact that Africans in a time like this are so